Is it okay to pause your Facebook ads over Christmas? I'm getting asked this question quite a lot right now, and I think a lot of advertisers are trying to work out if this is okay. Is it going to hurt their campaigns long term? So I wanted to talk about the pros and cons of pausing or turning off your Facebook ads over the Christmas period. Now, I need to be very clear that what I'm talking about here is pausing basically from Christmas Eve or maybe a few days before until, let's say, just after the new year. I'm not talking about for the whole of December. Lots of businesses want to be running campaigns during December because they sell their products or even services often as Christmas gifts, or people buy at this time of year, and that's all absolutely fine. You want to be running ads. I'm talking about for that, let's say 2-week period, just before Christmas or just after, where obviously people's behavior is very different. User activity on Facebook and Instagram is very different. Do you want to pause your campaigns during that period? Now, the first thing I'll say before I get into what's good, and I've got an article to talk about this, some quite interesting stuff around what's good or not for the Facebook ad campaigns themselves and what's optimal in that sense, is your own business's considerations should come in first. Okay, so what does that mean? If you are not open, or you are not able to deliver, let's say, a service, and people would expect it to be delivered in a relatively short time period. It's not one of those where someone inquires and they expect to wait 2 or 3 months before, they actually get that service. Then it's absolutely okay to pause your campaigns. Even if it has a negative impact on the Facebook ads over the long run, there's no point in wasting that money and having your ad campaigns running and you generating leads or sales and having to contact people, be like, oh, sorry, we can't deliver for another 3 weeks. Our distribution facility is not open, or whatever it happens to be. So if you are closing as a business for that time period, it is absolutely okay to turn your campaigns off. Don't think that the Facebook ad campaign optimization process, which we're going to talk about in a second, takes priority over considerations around your business. Okay? So if you fall into that category, the advice is fairly clear. You can go ahead and turn them off for those 2 weeks, get restarted again. Not the end of the world by any means. If you don't fall into that category, you are still open, you are still going to be able to deliver a service or ship product or something like that, then it becomes a little bit more difficult, okay? So the first thing we need to consider is what it's going to do to your Facebook ad campaigns over the long run. And I've got this article up here to help explain. So this article is all about significant edits and learning phase. And this is typically what people are often worried about when it comes to turning off their Facebook ads over Christmas. Is this part here. Pausing your ad set for 7 days or longer, the ad set re-enters the learning phase once you unpause the ad set. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean I recommend you create new ad sets when you turn it back on. They're going to be in the learning phase anyway, so you can't avoid it. If you want to pause your campaigns for those 2 weeks, you are going to re-enter the learning phase. And we have seen campaigns not work overly well for a while once they've got back up and running again. Okay. So that's sort of the downside to making this change. The downside to leaving your campaigns running is potentially that you might get really poor results. Now, this will very much depend on your business. Now, hopefully you have previous year data. If not, you can monitor it quite closely, provided you're not, taking the time off, and you will be monitoring stuff. You can monitor it quite closely and make a call more or less in real time. And here's why it's so business specific. Certain businesses do incredibly well over the Christmas New Year period. Why? Because people have time off work. They're spending a lot of time at home. The weather's not great, at least in the Northern Hemisphere, so people are inside a lot. They're spending a lot of time on their devices. So you see that there are a lot of potential impressions to be had amongst your audience. Okay, so that's a massive positive for Facebook and Instagram advertisers. So businesses like apps, for example, anything digital, often do really, really well. A lot of product-based businesses do well, if that's the sort of thing that people buy in and around that time of year. But obviously the flip side of that is that just because they're impressions doesn't mean that's going to translate to business for your company. If people are just not going to be interested in your products and services around that time of year because their mind's on other things, it's absolutely fine to turn your campaigns off, even though you're going to re-enter the learning phase. I think that the downside to re-enter the learning phase is not big enough to warrant effectively wasting 2 weeks of ad spend. If that's the major choice here. 2 weeks of ad spend wasted, but I want my campaign to do well over the long run, so I don't want to interrupt. No, better to pause them and not waste the 2 weeks. So if you are going to be open and you are going to be delivering, you need to work out, is my product or service going to be in demand? Are people going to be interested in using it, buying it, etc. during this 2 week time period? If not, it's okay to turn your campaigns off. Of course, one thing you can do is go for a little bit of a halfway house, and that significantly reduce your budget. So you keep your campaigns ticking along, and we would often do this with businesses that there is some demand for their products and services during that time period. People will be interested, they will purchase, but it's not great. It's not going to be massive. We might really reduce the budget. Now, of course, making a significant adjustment to the budget can also send you back into the learning phase, when you make the reduction, and then again, once you increase it back up, once you're sort of back in early January, the impact doesn't seem to be as much as pausing the campaign and then re-enabling it. Dropping the budget back down to, say, 20% of what you usually spend seems to have less of a longer term impact. And when you get back up and running, say in January, those first 2 weeks are likely to be better with that option. So that may well be a halfway house, between the setup. So my advice here really depends on your business and your specific situation. If you're closed and can't deliver, turn them off. If no one's going to be interested in your stuff during that period, turn them off. If people are loving what you have to offer during that period because they're on their devices and they're on Facebook, Instagram all the time, you may even want to scale up budgets, and that's absolutely fine. If you're unsure, don't know how it's going to go, monitor it very closely, perhaps reduce your budget back down and be flexible during that time period would be my recommendation. Okay, a couple of things I want to mention before you go. The first is a free webinar I've created called 3 Killer Facebook Ad Strategies to Double or More Your Revenue. And in this webinar, I break down 3 different sales funnels that we use as a Facebook ads agency. They work extremely well for our clients, very much tried and tested. You can implement them right away. I strongly recommend you check out this webinar. It's completely free. Link is in the video description below. Go through and watch it. And yeah, I think in terms of working out what your sales funnel structure should be, what your campaign structure should be, it's absolutely going to be very beneficial. If you found this video useful, please give it a thumbs up. Please comment below to let me know. And of course, subscribe to my channel for more Facebook, Instagram, Meta advertising related content, which I'm releasing all the time. Thanks guys. Bye-bye.